I knew something was off the second I opened the door and heard nothing. Total silence. No music, no cooking sounds, no humming from the kitchen like she usually did when she was home before me. It was Thursday night, a little after 7, and I remember it clearly because I had stopped for groceries on the way home like she asked. A list scribbled on the back of a napkin was still crumpled in my jacket pocket. She had asked me to pick up stuff for tacos, but when I walked into the house, there wasn't even a pan on the stove. I stood in the hallway holding a bag full of onions, cheese, and ground beef, just listening for anything. Our house wasn't big, so if she was there, I'd have heard her. I dropped the bag in the kitchen and walked through every room calling her name, thinking maybe she'd gone out back or taken a walk. Nothing. The back door was locked, the living room was spotless, the lights in the bedroom were off. The only thing I noticed was the guest bathroom door was slightly open, and inside, the faucet was dripping. That might seem like nothing, but Claire was obsessive about turning things off. She'd unplug the toaster if we left the room. The drip was new. I turned it off and stared at the mirror for a second, wondering why the room smelled like perfume. Not hers, though. Something heavier. Musky, maybe cologne, but not mine either. I rubbed the back of my neck and tried to shake it off. I figured maybe she'd gone to a neighbor's place or stepped out to grab something. I called her name again and opened the hall closet for some reason, though I had no idea what I was expecting to find in there. At around 8, I heard the door unlock. She walked in like nothing was strange, holding a takeout bag and smiling like everything was normal. "Hey babe, I figured we'd do Thai tonight instead. You probably didn't see my note." I looked at her, trying to make sense of the moment, and I asked her what note. She said she left one on the fridge. I turned and checked. Nothing there but a picture of us at the lake and a reminder for the dentist appointment I had canceled 2 weeks ago. She noticed the groceries on the counter and laughed nervously, saying something like, "Oops, well, we'll use that tomorrow." Then she walked past me and went straight into the bathroom, the same one that had smelled weird. I followed her, slowly, pretending to be casual as I leaned in the doorway. She was washing her hands for way too long. I said, "Where were you, Claire?" And she didn't even turn around, just shrugged and said she was at Julie's place helping her with some boxes in the garage. Julie, her coworker who I had nothing against except that every time Claire said she was with her, I couldn't verify it because Julie's phone was always on silent or she was in a dead zone. I didn't respond right away, just stared at her back while she fiddled with the hand towel. When she finally turned to face me, I saw it. A faint red mark on her collarbone, barely visible, but it was there, just above where her tank top sat. She noticed my eyes land on it, and immediately brought her hand up to scratch at it like it was just an itch. I asked her, "What's that?" And she laughed, this dry little forced laugh that didn't sound like her at all. "Oh, that?" One of the boxes scratched me. Julie had me moving all these old wine crates. I didn't say anything, not because I believed her, but because something about the way she looked when she said it made my stomach twist. She wasn't just lying. She was acting. We ate dinner in silence, the Thai food going cold because neither of us was really hungry. I kept staring at her, and she kept avoiding eye contact, asking me random questions like how work was, if I'd seen the dog groomer's flyer in the mail, and if I remembered to pay the water bill. Her hands were shaking. Not much, just barely, but I saw it when she poured herself a glass of wine. She spilled a few drops and wiped them up too quickly, like she couldn't stand the mess. She used to leave her glass wherever and not care. Now she wiped it twice, maybe 3 times, like she needed to clean something else, something bigger. I went to bed early that night. I didn't say goodnight, and she didn't either. I lay there with my eyes open, hearing her walking around the house, opening drawers and closing them again. I heard the closet door in the guest room open, which was weird because we never kept anything in there but old holiday decorations. I got up about an hour later and checked. Sure enough, a blanket that had been folded for years was now tossed on the floor, and the closet door was half open. The next morning, when I asked her if she slept well, she just smiled and said, "I always sleep well when you're home." I just nodded and left for work, already feeling the cracks forming underneath me. I didn't plan to find anything. That morning, I left the house like usual, kissed Claire on the cheek, told her I'd be home around 6, and walked out like it was any other Friday. But I wasn't going to work. I had taken the day off without telling her, told my boss I needed a personal day, and that was the truth. I needed to know what the hell was going on inside my house when I wasn't there. The mark on her collarbone kept replaying in my mind, The way she scratched at it like she was hiding something, not soothing anything. I parked my car 3 blocks down and walked back, staying on the opposite side of the street. It was cold, the kind of morning where your breath hangs in the air, and the neighborhood was dead quiet. At 9:45, I saw it. A car I didn't recognize pulled up slowly and parked right in front of my house like it belonged there. It was a silver Civic, clean but old, and the guy who stepped out was wearing a blue hoodie and jeans. Nothing fancy, nothing that stood out. He moved like he knew exactly where he was going. No hesitation. He walked right up to my door and knocked twice. I expected Claire to be surprised, maybe to hesitate, but the door opened within seconds, like she had been waiting for it. She didn't check who it was through the window. She didn't look around. She just opened the door, stepped aside, and let him in. Then she closed it behind them. I stood there across the street, behind a line of hedges, trying not to breathe too loud, my hands shaking from something that wasn't the cold. I stayed there for 20 minutes, maybe more. No one came out. The house was still. From where I was standing, I couldn't see the living room, but I could see the hallway light flick on and then off again. I wanted to burst through the door. I wanted to storm in and catch them in whatever it was they were doing. But I didn't move. Instead, I circled the house and went around back, walked quietly through the neighbor's yard, and climbed the small fence we shared. Our back patio door had a broken latch. It never fully locked unless you forced it, and I had never fixed it because I always figured we lived in a safe enough area. I slipped it open with just a little pressure, pushed the glass door inch by inch, and stepped inside, silent. No one was in the kitchen. I could hear low voices down the hall, coming from the bedroom. The door was closed, but not tight. I walked to it, and stopped when I could make out what they were saying. "Do you think he suspects anything?" the guy asked. I didn't recognize his voice. Calm, casual, like they were talking about the weather. Claire responded after a short pause. "No, he's been quiet, but not in a way that means anything. He's just him. I was thinking maybe we should slow it down," he said. "I don't want to cause a scene." "You're not going to," she answered, sharper this time. "We've been careful. He's clueless." I could hear the bed creak, hear the soft shuffle of movement. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe through my nose. My heart was beating so hard I thought they might hear it. But they didn't. They kept talking. Not about me. Not about guilt. They talked about when they'd see each other next, how she could make time again during one of her inventory shifts. They laughed, quietly, like this was some game they were playing and they already knew how it would end. I stepped back from the door and walked out the same way I came in. I didn't slam the door. I didn't break anything. I walked back to my car, sat inside, and stared at my own hands like they didn't belong to me. It wasn't just about the cheating. It was how calm she was, how practiced it sounded, like this had been going on for a while, and she had no intention of stopping. And all the while, she was sleeping next to me, eating food I cooked, kissing me goodbye like nothing was happening. I drove for a while after that. Not home, not to work, just aimless streets, letting the hours pass while I tried to figure out what I was supposed to do next. I ended up at a hardware store, walked the aisles until I found what I was looking for. I paid in cash. Back home, I parked in the same spot, walked in through the front door like nothing happened, and found her in the kitchen slicing vegetables. She smiled, asked if I wanted tea. I said sure. We had a normal conversation. I told her work was fine. I asked if she wanted to watch a movie later, and she said maybe, depending on how tired she was. I watched her fingers move while she chopped, watched her lips while she lied, and I nodded along. She handed me the tea and kissed my cheek. I went upstairs with the bag from the hardware store tucked under my coat and started planning. I waited 3 more days. I pretended I didn't know a thing. I kissed her goodbye in the morning, ate dinner beside her in silence, and even held her hand one night when we were walking back from the grocery store because she reached out like it was nothing. The thing about people who cheat is they think they're the only ones lying. They get so used to their story, so wrapped up in their own little script, they stop checking if the other person is still reading it with them. Claire thought I was still in the dark. She didn't see the change. I had stopped sleeping in the same way. I'd lie still and face away from her, listening to her breathe and waiting for her to check her phone under the blanket like she'd done before. I'd pretend to be asleep while she scrolled through messages and deleted things she didn't want me to see. She didn't know I'd already seen enough. She didn't know I had bought the cameras. They weren't big. The kind of stuff anyone could find online. Small, discreet, and perfect for corners of the house where nobody ever looks. I placed one in the bedroom, just above the curtain rail, angled perfectly to cover the bed. Another in the hallway, close enough to catch anyone coming in or out of the guest room. One in the living room near the TV, hidden behind a small decorative bowl she never touched. It wasn't about recording anything sexual. I didn't want that. I wanted truth. I wanted to capture every smirk, every whisper, every hand brushed against hers when they thought no one was watching. I installed everything on a Monday while she was at work, and by Tuesday night, I had footage. He came again in the afternoon. Same guy, same hoodie, same casual swagger. She let him in like it was just another day, and they went straight to the bedroom. I watched the recording from my office upstairs with the door locked, not moving for 30 minutes. I didn't even realize I had clenched my fists until my knuckles cracked from the pressure. There was no guilt on her face. She wasn't second-guessing anything. She looked relaxed, even happy. They didn't even talk much this time. Just undressed each other like it was routine. I didn't know what hit harder, watching her undress for someone else in the bed I bought, or realizing this wasn't something new. It was a pattern, a habit, something they did often and without hesitation. That night, I didn't speak a word to her. She made pasta and poured 2 glasses of wine, asking how my day was, and I gave her the same blank stare I'd been practicing for days. I said, it was normal, and she smiled, like that was enough. She didn't even notice my eyes barely left hers the entire meal. I didn't eat the pasta. I pushed it around on the plate until she got up to wash the dishes. I washed her back again, like I had when I first suspected something, and this time I felt nothing. No sadness, no confusion, just this dull ache in the center of my chest that had no sharpness left in it. I had already grieved the loss. Now I was planning the burial. On Wednesday morning, I told her I was taking a short work trip. I packed a small bag, took my laptop, and told her I'd be gone for 2 days. She kissed me goodbye, barely looked up from her phone, and said, "Be safe." I left at 10 a.m. but didn't go anywhere. I waited in the car around the block and watched the footage live through the app. Sure enough, less than 2 hours later, he was back. The same car, the same routine, the same door opening without hesitation. I waited 2 minutes after he went inside, then walked back home. I didn't knock. I didn't even open the front door gently. I walked in like I belonged there, because I did, and closed it behind me as quietly as I could. I stood in the hallway listening, hearing the faint creak of the bed and the muffled laughter coming from our room. The hallway camera caught everything. The door swinging open, the moment Claire saw me standing there. Her eyes widened, her mouth opened slightly like she wanted to speak, but couldn't form a word fast enough. The guy jumped off the bed and reached for his pants, but I wasn't there for him. "Claire," I said, and she froze. "Get up. Now." She sat up, trying to cover herself with the sheet, and her voice cracked when she finally said, "Mark, I can explain." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "No, you can't. You won't. You're going to listen now." She looked like she was trying to decide if she should argue or stay quiet. And then the guy, who still hadn't put his shirt back on, decided to speak. "Hey man, I didn't know." "Shut the hell up. This doesn't concern you." He opened his mouth again like he was about to test me, then thought better of it. Claire was staring at me, her face white, her hands gripping the blanket like it was a shield. I looked at her and said, "I know everything. Every word you've said, every visit, every time you told me you were working late or out with friends. I've seen it. You lied. You betrayed me. And you did it over and over without flinching." She started to cry, tears rolling fast, but I didn't care. I didn't flinch either. I walked over to the nightstand and picked up the small envelope I had left there that morning. Inside were still images printed from the videos. I handed them to her. "Here, keep them. Show them to your next boyfriend if you want. I'm done talking." Then I turned to the guy and said, "Put your clothes on. Get out of my house." He left in such a hurry that he forgot his phone on the nightstand, and I didn't bother telling him. He barely had one shoe on when he darted past me down the hall, and Claire didn't even try to stop him. She just sat on the edge of the bed with her head in her hands, sobbing like I was the one who had broken something. I didn't feel bad for her. I didn't feel bad for either of them. I had spent enough nights wondering what was real and what was performance. Now I was past caring. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't give her the drama she might have been expecting. I simply turned, walked into the living room, and sat down on the couch like it was just another day. She followed me 10 minutes later, wrapped in a robe, eyes puffy and red. She stood in front of me like she was unsure of whether to sit or speak or run again. I'm sorry, she said quietly. You're not. I replied without looking at her. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I didn't plan it. I looked up then. You didn't plan it? You've been doing this for weeks. Maybe months. I've got timestamps. I've got audio. I've got you. Planning was the only part you were good at. I didn't think you'd find out. That made me laugh again, sharper this time. Right? Because I'm stupid. Because you thought I'd just keep cooking dinner and asking about your day while you kept bringing that piece of trash into my house. She sat down across from me and reached out, but I shifted back. Don't, I said, and she froze. I just want to talk. Please, let's talk. I told you earlier. This isn't a conversation. This is you listening. You said I was clueless, that I didn't notice anything. You laughed about it while he was in my bed. Now you want to talk. She didn't respond right away. She just sat there, holding her hands together like if she gripped hard enough, the whole thing might reverse itself. She finally whispered, "It was never about him." "Oh, I know. It was about you. It was always about you." She looked up again, defensive now. "You don't understand. You've been distant. You work all the time. We stopped connecting. You should have left then," I said. "You should have had the guts to say something instead of crawling under someone else and pretending it was fixing anything." I was afraid. "No, you were selfish." We sat there for a long time, the sound of the refrigerator humming louder than her crying. I stood up and walked to the bedroom, pulled out a suitcase from the closet, and started packing. She followed me in. "What are you doing?" "I'm leaving. This is my house too. Not for long. I can't believe you're just walking away without trying to fix it. You already broke it. I'm just taking the pieces with me." She started crying again, but I didn't stop. I packed shirts, jeans, toiletries, grabbed my charger, unplugged the camera system, and dropped it into my backpack. I wasn't going to leave her with it. She didn't deserve to erase what she'd done. As I zipped the suitcase, she stood by the door like she might block it, but she didn't move. What do I tell people? Tell them the truth, for once. And what if I want to make it right? You can't. This wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. You made it more than once. You lied to my face over and over. You laughed about it. I didn't laugh about it. Don't argue. It's on video. I heard every word. I walked past her with the suitcase, headed to the door. She didn't follow this time. She just stood there like she didn't recognize anything around her anymore. I opened the door, turned back once, and said, "You know what the worst part is? I didn't think I'd have to be suspicious of you. I really believed you wouldn't do this. I thought you were better." She tried to speak again, but I stepped outside before she could. I walked to my car and didn't look back. I spent the next 4 nights in a motel just outside of town, a place where nobody would look for me, where the carpets smelled like old coffee and the walls were too thin to hide anything, which, for once, worked in my favor. I didn't want quiet. I didn't want peace. I needed the noise, the background murmur of other people's problems bleeding through the drywall, something to remind me that my world wasn't the only one falling apart. I ate microwave food, slept in jeans, and stared at the ceiling long after the lights went out. I didn't answer calls. I didn't read texts. Claire tried, of course. She started the second day. First a short message. "Can we please talk?" Then a longer one. "I made a huge mistake. I'll do anything. Just tell me what you need." By day 3, her messages had become apologies, layered with explanations I didn't ask for, sentences that started with "I know I hurt you," and ended with "but I still love you." I didn't reply. Not yet. On the 5th day, I texted her one sentence. "We'll talk at the house tomorrow at 7. No emojis. No opening or closing. Just the time and place. I arrived 15 minutes early. I didn't knock. It was still my key, still technically my name on everything. She was already home, sitting on the couch, not pretending to look casual, not doing anything with her hands. That told me she was nervous. She stood up when she saw me, but I held up my hand. "Sit. We're going to talk, but you're going to hear all of it. You don't get to interrupt." She nodded, lowered herself back into the couch slowly, eyes locked on mine like waiting for a verdict. I stayed standing, just inside the living room. "I spent the last week thinking about what this marriage was to you. Not to me. I already know what it was to me. I gave you everything I had. Time, trust, consistency. I never pretended to be perfect, but I never lied to you. Not once. And when things got quiet between us, I thought it was a phase. People go through phases. But you didn't ask for help. You didn't tell me you were lonely. You just let someone else inside our home and figured I wouldn't notice." She blinked fast, but stayed quiet, just like I asked. I kept going. I've watched that footage more than I care to admit. Not because I'm obsessed or angry or looking for reasons to stay. I watched it because I wanted to understand who I was living with. I wanted to see if there was a moment, any moment, where you hesitated, where you looked over your shoulder like you felt even a little guilty. You didn't. She opened her mouth, and I cut her off. No, you don't speak yet. I paused long enough to look around the room, not at her, but at the things we bought together. The lamp we argued about in the store for half an hour. The couch that took 3 weeks to get delivered. All of it suddenly felt like props in a show I didn't sign up for. I'm not going to scream or throw things or call you names. I don't have the energy, but I'm not going to pretend this can be fixed. You made your choices. Now I'm making mine. Finally, I sat down across from her. I talked to a lawyer. Papers will be ready in a week. You'll be served properly. I won't do it myself. You'll get your fair half. I don't want revenge. I want distance. She broke then. Her voice cracked the way people's voices do when they've been holding back just long enough to think they'll be okay. Mark, I know I messed everything up, but I don't want this to be the end. I don't want to lose you. Please don't walk away from everything we had. I looked her straight in the eye. You already walked away. I'm just following your lead. I'll go to therapy. We can go together. I'll do whatever it takes. You didn't want to fix anything when it mattered. Now you're trying to fix something after you burned it down. It doesn't work like that. I thought you didn't care anymore. You were always in your head, always quiet. Because I was tired. Because I was carrying everything by myself. And I didn't complain. I didn't look for comfort in someone else's arms. I dealt with it. I didn't sleep with him the first time he came over. That's supposed to make it better? She looked down, like she was ashamed, or maybe just finally realizing that nothing she said would make a difference anymore. I don't hate you, I said. I just don't trust you. And without that, there's nothing left. What happens now? Now I move out. You stay here if you want. Or sell it. I don't care anymore. You'll hear from the lawyer. She wiped her face, nodded slowly, and didn't speak again. I stood, looked at her one last time, and then walked out without anything else to say. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. 1 bedroom. Thin walls. No real view to speak of. It wasn't anything special, but it was clean, quiet, and most importantly, it was mine. I brought only what I needed: clothes, my laptop, a few dishes, and 1 chair. The rest stayed at the house. I didn't want the bed we used to share, the furniture we picked out together, or the photos that once meant something. I didn't need reminders. I just wanted space to think without the sound of her voice trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. The lawyer filed the papers on schedule. She didn't contest anything, didn't fight me on the terms, and didn't ask to meet again. That surprised me. I expected more pushback, more begging, maybe even some dramatics to convince me she was ready to change. Instead, she signed and returned everything within 3 days. That was the clearest answer I could have gotten. It confirmed what I already knew. She had let go long before I did. The first few weeks were a mess of awkward routines and long silences. I went to work, came home, ate something fast, and sat in the same chair every night, just staring at the wall or watching shows I wasn't really following. Friends noticed the shift. A couple of them asked if I wanted to grab drinks or catch a game, but I wasn't ready for small talk about sports or mutual acquaintances. I wasn't angry anymore, just drained. There's a certain emptiness that comes when something ends without resolution. You walk away not with fire in your chest, but with a cold calm that makes it hard to feel anything at all. That was me. One night, about a month after I left, I got a text from her. It was short. I understand why you left. I hope you're okay. I stared at it for a long time, trying to figure out what she wanted me to say in return. There was nothing left to clarify, no unanswered questions, and no chance of going back. I didn't respond. She didn't text again. Eventually, I started talking to people again. Nothing deep, just casual stuff. Chats with neighbors, small interactions at the office, brief conversations at the grocery store. It wasn't that I wanted to connect with anyone, but I didn't want to sit in silence forever either. I wasn't looking for new love or even friendship. I just wanted to remember what it felt like to be around people without hiding something. The hardest part wasn't being alone. It was realizing how much of my life I had spent pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. I got a dog a few weeks later. Not for companionship. Not to fill a hole. I just needed something in the house that wasn't me. Something to take care of that wouldn't lie or make excuses. A friend recommended a rescue shelter. And I ended up with an older mutt named Riley who didn't bark much and slept most of the day. That suited me fine. We'd go for short walks, he'd snore on the couch while I worked, and sometimes I'd talk out loud to him just to fill the room. He never judged me for repeating the same stories or asking questions with no answers. The divorce finalized without ceremony. A few forms, a confirmation from the court, and that was it. A marriage that lasted 8 years ended in a single envelope. I didn't feel relief or sadness when I opened it. I felt done. There was nothing more to analyze. I didn't need to figure out what went wrong anymore. I knew what went wrong. She made choices, and I didn't stop her. I ignored signs I didn't want to see, and by the time I opened my eyes, it was already over. About 2 months after everything was finalized, I ran into her at a gas station. It was late, barely anyone around. She was pumping gas, and I was walking out with a bottle of water and a pack of gum. We made eye contact. She gave a small wave. I nodded. That was it. No conversation. No drama. Just two people who used to be something standing under the same flickering light for a few seconds before going separate ways. I watched her drive off and didn't feel anything. No anger, no sadness, no need for closure. It was just a moment, and then it was gone. Now my days are simple. I wake up early, walk the dog, make coffee, and go to work. I come home, cook for one, and sometimes go to the gym if I feel restless. I'm not looking for someone new. I'm not rebuilding myself like some grand project. I'm just living differently now. With awareness. With silence I chose, not one I was forced into. Looking back, I don't regret how I handled it. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't try to win someone back who had already checked out. I watched. I learned. I made a decision. And I stuck with it. That's all there was to do. And that's what I'll keep doing, quietly, until the right kind of noise finds its way back in. If it ever does. If not, that's fine too. At least this time, I'll hear it coming.